Yeah, so when we activate the heart space, that is when we feel connected, and it is the key. And because we've done all this work up until now, we have created a blueprint, a map that shows us how to get there, what we want, and we're allowing the guidance to come through. And because we have the connection, and we can always, we fall in and out of heart coherence all the time, but to know we have a tool to connect back into the heart space when we do have those feelings of anxiety, we do have those feelings of maybe not feeling clarity or maybe chaos, we have a tool to connect back. So before I'm going to hand over to Arleen, I just wanted to share. So today I pulled two cards for us, which are perfect, which are from the Keepers of the Light deck, which is Lady Nada, which is we're bringing and inviting these Ascended Masters to come in and work with us today. And this is about heart awakening. So how perfect is that? It's like heart awakening. So awaken to acceptance, divine love, and give and receive balance. So that is what we are. The intention is to awaken and activate the heart space. I'm super, yeah, I am too. And the second card was the Holy Amethyst. The Holy Amethyst is divine alchemy, which is move beyond current challenges, focus on what you desire. So that is our intention. We've got heart awakening, and we are focusing on what we desire, and we're going to move beyond our challenges. When we connect to our heart space and feel connected, we are tapping into that infinite wisdom of the universe, that we can start moving beyond our challenges and get the divine guidance we need to move forward. And so I'm so excited to hand over to Arleen, who is the expert in this field of the heart math. And I'm going to, yep. So she has done the work, but I will leave all that to her to explain to you. And I'm going to take myself off mute myself. So it's all over to you, Arleen.
Okay, how do I get back to my presentation?
You just got to go down to share the screen, or up to share the screen.
Can you see it? Oh,
not yet.
let me
So
see.
On Zoom, there'll be a share the screen. Yeah.
Sorry, got it. Okay, can everybody see that? Can everyone see that? Yes? Okay, perfect. I can't tell if can everybody hear me?
I can hear you. Yep. I'll check if you want to put it in the chat to answer the questions, then we can check that as well.
Yeah, just let me know if somebody can't hear me.
Okay, no worries. I'll monitor that.
Thank you. All right, ladies. I am going to be talking about heart coherence today. The topics I'm going to cover are my own personal discovery of heart coherence, which I feel like this presentation would not be complete without. And it really sort of gives a good personal experience of why heart coherence is just something that we really need to be aware of and be practicing. I'll talk a little bit about the science of the heart without getting too sciencey, because there's a lot of science to this topic. I will talk about what heart rate variability is. We'll touch a little bit on stress, that we all probably know way too much about, and how it affects our heart coherence, and also how you can increase your own heart coherence. So heart coherence is a term used to describe when the mind, body, and when the heart, mind, and body are working together. Coherence is also referred to as the optimal state in which heart, mind, and emotions are operating in sync and balance. It is the prime enabler of behavioral change, which I, as a clinician, didn't know that. Unmanaged stress is the prime disabler. Being in coherence helps us build resilience, capacity, and energy reserves. So this is my own journey to heart coherence. It began, I first became aware of heart coherence while I was staying in in a hotel during the process of my divorce. I had to return to the property every day to run the restaurants and felt so dysregulated by the energy that was waiting for me that I needed to figure out how to get grounded before I got there. I also knew that moving away from the property where all of my expenses had been covered, I would need to have a plan because clearly I couldn't stay in a hotel forever. I was completely on my own, but still needed to see the property and business sale through before I had any real resources to start over. As part of the spiritual journey I had embarked on a year or so prior, I had become accustomed to looking for the answers outside of myself, or from teachers I was following, or guides, or YouTube videos, or books, or my sessions with Verena. Even though I had learned that all the answers I would ever need to start my life over were actually in me, I just didn't really know how to access that. So the very first morning I wake up in my hotel room, and my first awareness of being awake, I could feel this familiar feeling of fear and panic and overwhelm. I literally could feel my body fill with adrenaline, like ice water running through my veins. Over my lifetime, my autonomic nervous system had developed a default reaction when dealing with stress or perceived danger, despite how safe in the moment I actually was. When our life experiences have been characterized by stressful situations as mine have for much of my life, our autonomic nervous system begins to develop a pattern that also includes the brain responding by producing chemicals and building neural pathways of survival reaction. The pattern becomes so ingrained that it will get activated even if the perceived danger is manageable. The brain doesn't know the difference between whether or not you are an unsupervised 5-year-old walking down the sidewalk in nothing but a t-shirt, or a teenager living on the street with some but not enough resources or ability to self-protect, or an adult who can self-protect but keeps partnering with people who end up providing the same fearful experiences that by then your brain has actually developed a chemical addiction to. It feels the same to your brain and body. And it's their job to keep you alive. And so it springs into action when that perceived time comes. So when I first started following Dr. Joe Dispenza, I remember him talking about this addiction to these chemicals in our brain. And I didn't really understand what he meant, but he talked about how subconsciously we will need that fix. We will need that feeling, and the brain is going to try to go after it. Again, I really couldn't wrap my head around what he was talking about. However, I'm convinced as I look back now from a place of healing, distance, awareness, and transition, that I was addicted to experiences, relationships, feelings of fear, dread, panic, and overwhelm that sent my autonomic nervous system back to a place of survival that it had learned so well. The neural pathways in my brain were well in place. So there I was, waking up my first night in the hotel room after making, quite honestly, this last-ditch effort of, if I'm going to survive this process, this sale, this divorce, I need some space from this situation. A voice in my head, otherwise known as the ego, immediately was like, oh my God, what have you done? You can't go back now. Was it really that bad? I had seen or read something by Mel Robbins, the author of the 5-Second Rule, who teaches a tool to manage the familiar feelings of panic and anxiety when they arise. She refers to it as high-fiving your heart, and how to flip your fight or flight nervous system, how to flip off your fight or flight nervous system and flip on your parasympathetic, cool and calm nervous system. we'll be talking about that, the nervous system, in a little bit. So what you do is you put your hand on your heart and you press hard and you say out loud, I'm okay, I'm safe, I'm loved. And even though I could feel the internal fight of that not really being true, or my nervous system not believing it was true, I kept saying it until I could feel coming back down in my body. The truth is, if you can hear yourself say it, it's true. So I did that every morning and began to notice the difference between the states of panic and fear and the state of calm. I had been in such a hyper-vigilant state, on such a continuum of being around him and the drama and the fear and the threats, but still also having to run the business, that I really didn't have a lot of momentum in maintaining that calm and peace feeling. I finally landed on, sometimes it's more productive to thank your nervous system for doing its job than trying to convince it there's no danger just because there isn't a tiger in the room. So I don't remember how I came across this song by Katy Perry called Rise, but I did. And I would listen to that song the entire way down to the property. I would play it over and over and over. And I could feel my power coming back. I could feel me coming into my power, and I could feel the peace coming. And for sure, by then I could feel the energy I was coming in with and the energy that was waiting for me. During that time, I had also started reading First Intelligence by Simone Wright that was recommended by Verena. One particularly anxious morning, I picked up the book, opened it to the next chapter, and it was called Peace. The timing couldn't have been better. The chapter talked about heart coherence, which I'd never even heard that phrase, and how essential it is to tapping into your intuition. On page 17, she says, quote, "Be calm in your heart. This is the most powerful understanding you must carry with you when developing your intuitive intelligence." She goes on to say, "Remember, where your attention goes, your energy follows. If we still ourselves and focus on the place of power, we engage with all the potential we need to heal, to grow, evolve, love, change, and create whatever we wish to. As you move forward and develop your new relationship with peace, remind yourself that the real you is not affected by the state of things around you. And imagine yourself rising above the situation." And for me, that just felt like a lot. But also rising above that situation meant leaving the victim role and moving into a new definition of me. The victim role I played out over and over and over, and it was very familiar and it was very safe. So rising above and leaving that and moving into the new version of myself was also something that I had to say goodbye to. And so she says that as a neutral observer, you'll find it easier to guide yourself into a quiet and peaceful state. From that place, observe and take action. And I realized that place of coherence, is where my inner guidance stays, waiting for me to tap into. That my intuition, that sweet, sacred spot that held all the answers I would ever need to start my life over. And when I was there, like truly there, I had no fear, no doubt, no overwhelm. I just knew everything was going to be okay. And from that place, I would make the hard decisions of, how am I going to do this? Where am I going to go? When should I leave? How to negotiate all the details of the settlement. I remember thinking about, well, I can't stay in a hotel forever. So I went on Furnish Finders, which is like the Airbnb for professionals. And my ego was like, just pick a place, just pick a place. And then I would go to that calm, peaceful place because I had my eye on one house. It was already spoken for. But intuitively, I just held out. And through a chain of events, I ended up booking that house. And then the one behind, the one after that, I booked the same way. So I really began to notice making decisions from my heart space and making decisions out of the panic ego that had gotten me through much of my life. So I began practicing connecting to my heart for guidance and grounding. And then I started, through the process, I started thinking about who I would be as a clinician. I'd spent years, my focus was trauma. So I'd spent years on working with clients in different venues for that. But I knew, because of everything that I'd gone through, I could never be the same clinician. I just knew that something would need to be different. So I'm thinking about that, not directly. I opened my email and there was this email from HeartMath. And it said, would you like to be a certified HeartMath practitioner? And I was like, maybe. And so then I looked at some of their videos. I'm like, holy cow, I've literally been doing this entire time. I just didn't even know what to call it. And so I decided that definitely I was going to be all in to get involved with HeartMath. All right, so now we're going to go to some scientific facts about your heart that you probably didn't know. And this is about how the heart and brain communicate. So most of us probably have been taught that the heart is constantly responding to the brain, receiving orders in form of neural signals. What we now know is it's actually that the heart is sending messages to the brain 9 times more than the other way around. Researchers are demonstrating that the messages the heart sends to the brain not only affect physiological regulation, but also can profoundly influence perception, emotion, behavior, and performance and health. Recent biomedical research has revealed that the heart is not merely a single pump, but actually a highly complex, self-organized information processing center. In 1991, it was discovered that there are neurons in the human heart that think, feel, remember, and communicate, just like we already knew was going on in the brain. The heart actually sets the tone and syncs up all of the other organs in our body. They found that the heart actually has its own independent nervous system, referred to as the heart brain. It produces a powerful electromagnetic field that is imprinted by your emotions. The heart sends signals to the brain that go to the amygdala, the emotional processing center, and to the thalamus, which organizes our cortical functions and affects our higher brain centers. Brain function is critically dependent on this information. The heart's nervous system contains 40,000 sensory neurons. They've always been there. No one ever thought to ask before or to look before. They're located in the area of the heart that controls the blood flow. So the neurons are responding to your emotions, to the way you feel at any given moment. These neurons think and act apart from the brain. It acts independent from the brain. Every motion you feel in your body creates a chemical called neuropeptide. These neuropeptides want to metabolize and leave the body somehow by tears, bodily fluid, emotion work, etc. They can only be excreted if that emotion, whether it's trauma, fear, anger, jealousy, greed, etc., has been resolved. If it cannot be resolved, it will be stored in the organ that you associate with the emotion for 5 minutes, 60 years, until you have the tools to release it. Oops. Many of the highest quality feelings we have are associated with the heart. These include such emotions as appreciation, care, love, kindness, patience, and compassion. The heart is also associated with a deep source of wisdom and intuition knowingness that bypasses normal logical and linear patterns. And this makes me think about when I started recognizing the difference between I need to make a decision, there's nobody here, it's just completely me. My ego wanted to rise up and do the first thing that would bring relief. But my heart space was coming from a completely different source of information. And I know now that that is the heart intelligence that I was tapping into. More recently, it was discovered that the heart also secretes oxytocin, commonly known as the love or bonding hormone. Beyond its well-known functions in childbirth and lactation, recent evidence indicates that this hormone also is involved in cognition, tolerance, adaptation, complex sexual and maternal behaviors, as well as in the learning of social cues and the establishment of enduring pair bonds. Remarkably, concentrations of oxytocin produced in the heart are as high as the ones that are found in the brain. So as it turns out, the heart also has a magnetic field, an electrical organ producing by far the strongest source of rhythmic bioelectricity than any other organ. The energy goes to every cell in our body. Your heart produces enough electrical energy that it creates an electromagnetic field surrounding your body 360 degrees, extending beyond the skin out into the space, measurable for up to 6 to 8 feet. It's not measured any further than that because we don't have, there isn't any way to measure it as of yet. However, it is said that in the quantum field, it would be limitless. So as I stated earlier, the heart communicates directly with the brain. This is another example of the relational energetics. And as we know, I'm sure you've probably felt it before, where you walk into a room and you can feel someone's energy, or the collective energy in the room where something just feels off, or you walk in or you interact with somebody who's just having a really great day and their energy can actually lift you up. So I think we've all felt it before, but scientifically, we know now it's actually happening. This is an experiment that was conducted not by HeartMath, but by another institute that is studying heart coherence. Over the last decade or so, heart coherence has really just been a thing and has come into the mainstream of what people are recognizing is relevant to know and the benefits of it. So in one room, there were 4 tables. Each table had 4 participants. And 3 of them knew how to put their heart in heart coherence and had been trained. The 4th participant didn't know anything about heart coherence or didn't even know why they were there. So they were all hooked up to a data recorder. What they found was on all 4 different tables that when the 3 were instructed to begin a heart coherence technique, the 4th one who was at the table, their heart coherence was recorded to have gone up just by virtue of being around the other 3. Okay, so as I stated earlier, the heart communicates directly with the brain. Our heartbeat is the way it communicates information. The heart at rest was once thought to operate much like a metronome, faithfully beating out a fairly regular rhythm. Scientists and researchers now know that that's far from the truth. Rather than being monotonously regular, the rhythm of the healthy heart, even under resting conditions, is actually surprisingly irregular, and the time interval between consecutive heartbeats consistently changing. This naturally occurring beat-to-beat variation in heart rate is called heart rate variability. So heart rate variability is what all the fuss is about. So the bottom number is beats per minute, so heartbeat per minute. The top number is the space and the time in between these heartbeats. So heart rate variability ideally is the variability between these like if somebody has an even number, even space in between these heartbeats, that's not good at all. So it indicates their wellness is not good. I've actually heard seminars where they say that person is probably on their way to the hospital. So what we want to see that's healthy is a more variable time in between the top of or in between the spaces of the heartbeat. The variation between the heartbeats is not random. It's being driven by our overall wellness. So most people are familiar with the heart rate or heartbeat per minute. Heart rate is your pulse. how many beats per minute, and we want that number to be fairly low. We want heart rate variability to be higher. Heart rate variability is the best non-invasive indicator of your overall wellness and of future health problems. Oddly enough, your resting heart rate or beats per minute can be the same when you're 60 as it is when you're 20. If you're monitoring it and you're doing things to work out and making sure that you can meet those numbers. Heart rate variability is different. There's a dramatic change with age. When you're younger, your heart rate numbers are higher, and as you age, they go down. They don't really know why. There's some scientific explanations that are too deep to get into, but they are not really sure entirely why. Genetics is also shown to play a part in your heart rate variability numbers. So now we're going to talk about the benefits of heart rate variability. So the benefits of a high heart rate variability, indications of cardiovascular health, fitness, willpower, positive emotions, increased capacity to handle stress, improved pain management, asthma, depression, and self-control. And there seems to be an interesting link between increased or high HRV numbers and willpower. So heart rate variability is a huge predictor of persistence and self-control, and increases when exerting self-regulation. So these are some of the risks of the low heart rate variability. It's associated with lower self-regulatory capacities, inability to inhibit unwanted memories, intrusive thoughts, difficulties in emotion regulation, impulse control, anxiety, depression, poor social engagement, PTSD. And this last one appears to be associated with early childhood trauma. Not at all surprised. My very, very early childhood began with, people aren't doing their job, and so I've got to figure out how to survive. And so my nervous system began activated really, really quickly. And that set point was there for me very early on of staying in the fight or flight, of being hyper vigilant. So I wasn't at all surprised to see that it's associated with that. The medical risks can be predictive of future adverse outcomes associated with all-cause mortality, inflammation, adrenal insufficiency, chronic pain. Okay, so one of the main contributors to the heart rate number is how the body is processing stress. So let's talk about stress. Stress can be an incident or an ongoing experience. Research shows that low-level daily stressors of like staying at a job you don't want or in a relationship that's not good over an extended amount of time can actually be worse than one stressful event. We become accustomed to living in a less than ideal, stressful situation, and our body adjusts to it in ways that eventually take its toll. Over time, our autonomic nervous system gets a set pattern of functioning that also involves brain patterns and neural pathways, as well as heart patterns. While we think we've skillfully adapted to living with ongoing stressors in our life, we're paying a price physically when it begins to feel normal. One of the key players in how our body processes stress is called the autonomic nervous system. So the system directly affects heart coherence in both positive and negative ways. The autonomic nervous system also impacts 90% of our body's involuntary functions. So the system is made up of the para, the rest and digest, and sympathetic, prepare for action nervous systems. So there are minute-by-minute changes when these systems are engaged in trying to balance each other out. The sympathetic nervous system kicks into gear when we're stressed or in danger or think we're in danger, even if it's not real. We sweat, our heart rate goes up. And then those intervals that I pointed out earlier in the heart rate variability, they go down. and become more consistent, which is not what we want to see. It took me a minute to wrap my head around that because it doesn't make sense. We've always thinking of the heartbeat as it's a regular kind of thing, and it's more like a metronome. So anyway, when the sympathetic nervous system gets kicked in, then we see the heart rate go up, and then we see those intervals going down. The parasympathetic, otherwise known as rest and digest, it jumps in and acts as the brake to disable this system. So it'll slow down the heart rate, producing greater intervals for the heart rate variability. So creating a synchronized nervous system is healthy and facilitates an improvement in all of the important communication taking place between the heart and brain. This also helps open up your higher brain center so you feel more alert and calm at the same time. So heart rate variability also is a good indicator of how well your autonomic nervous system is working. The healthier you are, the better you're going to be able to switch gears between the two and create a better variable rate. So you want to practice getting into the parasympathetic system and activating that when you don't really need to be there, and get into a pattern of spending more time there, and so that you're able to facilitate stressful moments in an easier way. Let's see. So creating a new baseline. So what I realized is that my autonomic nervous system was set at such a high stress. I spent a lot of time in the sympathetic nervous system because I was hypervigilant. I was always expecting something to happen. And even though I wasn't fully aware, that's where my baseline was. And I remember doing the work, and during the dark night of the soul or the ego, things were happening and I couldn't calm down my system. And I realized, wow, my default is fear, panic, anxiety. And I had to work really hard to come out of that. And it wasn't until I studied this that I realized you actually can create a new baseline. Sometimes you don't even know what your baseline is because living in stress becomes so normal. So when you try to create a new baseline, it's going to be uncomfortable, departing from the familiar patterns, because now you've got everybody engaged. You've got the brain, you've got the heart, you have neural pathways, you have chemicals that have been produced, and your system is wanting more of that. So departing from that can be uncomfortable and can cause stress, but you just have to sort of stick with it. And what does that mean? It means meditating. It means quieting that down. It means reacting in a different way. Like, I think I'm going to die. No, you're okay. Or doing, what Mel Robbins was talking about. So it's a process of intentionally resetting that baseline, activating and sustaining coherence trains the nervous system to a new normal, and eventually you can reset it. And I'm telling you, I'm not there, but I know that I'm not reacting in old ways that I used to. I'm not panicking. My default is more, okay, well, this isn't fun right now, but it's going to be okay. So I can definitely feel the reward of intentionally recreating and working on coherence and creating a new baseline. So here's an example of an HRV tracing that has done. So here's the baseline. Say that was probably me. This is just one coherence technique. You can see the difference in the smoothness of the heart rate variability just after 2 minutes. Okay, so now we are going to enter a stress-free zone because we're going to talk about the emotions and attitudes that create coherence. And I'm guessing that I go through this list, I'm guessing that you guys will be able to relate to one or more of these words that you have felt or thought about or said out loud, and maybe noticed something different coming over your body, and a different energy, a calm energy. So courage, honor, dignity, confidence, appreciation, gratitude, kindness, care, love, compassion, tolerance, patience, enthusiasm, joy. So coherence also improves brain function, increased ability to self-regulate, improvement in long and short-term memory, ability to focus, process information, faster reaction times, higher test scores, improved ability to learn. Like, why wouldn't you want to do this? I mean, when I really delved into and started doing the research and studying about what coherence, how far-reaching it is, and how much it benefits literally everything, it was just pretty overwhelming. So practice outcomes. Enhances ability to maintain composure during challenges. I definitely have felt that. I have felt, and it was very recently actually, a situation that I didn't see coming. Somebody was coming at me with something, and I literally just was, I sort of like took a breath, and I noticed that my default was not to get defensive, not to rise up. I just was very calm inside. So I definitely have noticed a change. Improves family and social harmony, reduces fatigue and exhaustion. And when you think about fatigue and exhaustion, when you think about your autonomic nervous system, you know, firing and back and forth, it's going to be produce some fatigue and exhaustion. Improve coordination, reaction, ability to think clearly, find better solutions, accesses to intuitive intelligence. Okay, so how do you increase your heart rate variability? You can do it through breath work, consistent meditation, journaling, gratitude, reduce the stress in your life or improve your response to it. Hydrate. So when your blood is thicker, your heart's going to have to work harder. And try to remember to eat when you're in the parasympathetic state rather than when you're like grabbing something and running out the door, or eating while you're driving, which I've been guilty of. Literally 10 hours a day of heart rate variability training will improve coherence. Sleep is a foundation to health. The body likes rhythm and REM sleep. Avoid alcohol. It has a big effect on heart rate variability and a depressive effect on the heart 3 to 4 days later. Cold water therapy. So I've seen that. I've seen people jumping in these cold water baths. Brief exposure to cold water, and that just could mean you have a shower and it's hot, and then the last couple of minutes you just turn on the cold water. Actually activates our relaxation nervous system and gets it to kick in. So HeartMath has developed several devices that will track beat-to-beat changes and patterns and help you stay motivated, because you can track it. And it also has several apps that will do a meditation while you're doing heart coherence. There are other apps out there, other devices, but I am most impressed with how HeartMath really encourages and trains you to increase your heart rate variability. The other ones do some measuring, but I'm not even sure if they're measuring the same thing. I'm not sure. Can't really speak to what else is out there. But anyway, feeling good. When you have a feeling of goodness in you, you're coherent. So trust that and get to know what it feels like, and try to connect to it on a deeper level when you do feel it. I remember one of the things in my spiritual journey, when I started changing my brain chemistry, I started feeling good for no reason. Nothing had changed in my life around me, but I started having these feelings of feeling good. So whenever that comes up, just notice it, trust it, and just lean into it more. So HeartMath. So HeartMath was founded in 1991, and they have done research over 30 years on the connection between the heart and the brain. Their techniques are all evidence-based. The research is overwhelming and very exciting. The technology, I have Inner Balance. It works great. It has alarms that you can remind yourself to do a session. You can do it for a few minutes, 5 minutes, whenever, and it tracks all of your information and let you know when you're in coherence and when you're not, and and how you're doing as far as the length of time you're staying in coherence. So HeartMath has a global coherence initiative that I actually can see on my phone too. I haven't gotten that far yet with that app, but so what they're doing is they have set up sensitive magnetic field detectors all over the world that are monitoring heart coherence, because we know it's energy. This is actually where they are. Boulder Creek, California is where it all started. And they are really promoting and encouraging global coherence. And of course, what we know is it starts with us. How we increase global coherence starts with how we take responsibility for our own coherence. Okay, so I'm just going to end with one heart coherence technique, one of my favorite ones. So I'm going to have you guys, we're going to shift our focus, we're going to shift our breathing, and then we're going to shift how we feel in our bodies. So get comfortable, close your eyes, and allow your awareness to move from your thinking mind to your feeling mind. I'm sorry, your thinking mind to your feeling heart. If it helps, I know it helps me, you can put your hand on your heart center. So your breath is a language unto itself. And so when you breathe slow, it sends a message to your body. I am safe. And when we breathe for longer periods of time on the exhale than the inhale, that wakes up the parasympathetic nervous system that we want to get more acquainted with, and we want to spend more time there. So let's inhale for 4 and release for 6. Begin to feel the shift in your body. And now I invite you to feel a feeling of gratitude in your heart for anything or anyone. As you can feel that gratitude, feel the deeper shift in your body. Connect with the gratitude. Now, just take a deep breath and come back to the room and just take note of what you felt. And that was heart coherence. That's how easy it is. And that will end my presentation for today. Thank you all.
That was wonderful. Thank you so much, Arleen.
Yep. Can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep. Oh, there we go. Yeah.
Great. Yeah, that was fantastic. I really enjoyed that. I'm going to stop recording now, and then so if anyone wants to share any insights, because we've still got a little bit of time. I just wanted to say, where you mentioned 10 hours a day, I think you meant 10 minutes a day.
I did. Oh, are you still recording?